And well, our big focus is the Prime Minister's 3-day state visit to the US. Well, he has arrived in Washington, where he was welcomed by US President Joe Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden. Well, Prime Minister is currently having a closed-door meeting with Joe Biden, and this is his second leg of the 3-day visit. Remember, the Prime Minister has begun officially now his state visit, and now in the Washington leg of the Prime Minister's visit is going to be hard negotiations and diplomacy, which is going to be on the cards. Now, the Prime Minister was given a guard of honor when he arrived in incessant rains, and he stood there, as you can see in those visuals, for both the national anthems of India and the US. In fact, there was a private dinner as well that was hosted by President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden at the White House. And now key bilaterals, which of course include tech cooperation, defense cooperation, also artificial intelligence, space cooperation, all of those things will be discussed in those key bilaterals that the Prime Minister will be holding with President Biden. And of course, the latest is that both the sides have now exchanged official gifts, and what the Prime Minister had was special gifts to mark President Joe Biden's 80th birthday based on ancient Indian tradition. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden had a special vintage American camera for the Prime Minister. And well, for the First Lady Jill Biden, the Prime Minister had a 7.5 carat special green diamond. Well, in fact, now let's listen in to what the Prime Minister had to say in terms of at the outset, what are the key points that will be discussed in the days to come.
हमने स्कूलों में लगभग 10,000 अटल टिंकरिंग लैब्स उसकी स्थापना की है, जहां बच्चों को तरह तरह के इनोवेशन करने के लिए सभी प्रकार की सुविधाएं दी जा रही हैं। हमने युवा एंटरप्रेन्योर्स को प्रोत्साहित करने के लिए स्टार्टअप इंडिया मिशन शुरू किया है। हमारा लक्ष्य इस डेकेड को टेक डेकेड या टेकेड बनाने का है। फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत और अमेरिका को ग्रोथ का मोमेंटम बनाए रखने के लिए एक पाइपलाइन ऑफ टैलेंट उसकी भी जरूरत है। जहां एक और अमेरिका के पास उच्च कोटि के शिक्षण संस्थान है, एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजीज है, वहीं भारत के पास विश्व की सबसे बड़ी युवा फैक्ट्री है। और इसलिए मुझे विश्वास है कि भारत और अमेरिका की साझेदारी सस्टेनेबल और इंक्लूसिव ग्लोबल ग्रोथ का इंजन साबित होगी। एक इंडिया यूएस टीचर्स एक्सचेंज प्रोग्राम की शुरुआत के विषय हम सोच सकते हैं। दुनिया भर में फैले साइंटिस्ट और एंटरप्रेन्योर्स का भारत के संस्थानों के साथ एंगेजमेंट बढ़ाने के लिए हमने 2015 में ज्ञान ग्लोबल इनिशिएटिव ऑफ एकेडमिक नेटवर्क अभियान शुरू किया था। मुझे बताते हुए खुशी है कि इसके तहत अब तक यूएस से 750 फैकल्टी मेंबर्स भारत आ चुके हैं।
If we want our economies to be strong, we need to invest in young people who are our future. We need to ensure that they have the opportunities that they deserve. Through Joe's Investing in America agenda, we're creating millions of good jobs in growing industries like clean energy and manufacturing.
So, well, while the joint address to the Congress as well as the state dinner, the most keenly watched highlights of the Prime Minister's visit, there's a lot more on agenda, and my colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the latest as far as the Prime Minister's visit is concerned. She takes us through what all is on agenda today.
Well, this is more like a small, intimate dinner. However, both President Biden and Prime Minister Modi are accompanied by plus one. In this case, the plus ones are the National Security Advisors, Jake Sullivan on President Biden's side and Ajit Doval on Prime Minister Modi's side. This will be a dinner of the four people, an intimate dinner there, a small gathering. So we are expecting that since the NSAs are there, and this is just just one can just imagine that if the NSAs are present, what is it that is likely to be discussed. Now, the NSAs are instrumental and crucial in what we've been talking about, Vedant, ISET initiative on critical and emerging technologies. Remember the NSA, the United States NSA, Jake Sullivan was in India less than a week ago before Prime Minister left for the United States, and the thrust was on the industry coming together for technological partnership, and this is all under ISET. So we are expecting that in this dinner there will be some conversation around more technological partnership between the two sides, tech partnership. We are already expecting now that there will be some big announcement around Micron. This is with regards to manufacturing of semiconductors to make the semiconductor supply chain more resilient. But going forward, what else will ISET have under it? Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, space, all these are important aspects, and we can expect that since the NSAs are accompanying the two leaders there, that they will be talking about tech partnership between the two sides. Of course, security also falls under their ambit, and with the common threat of China, that aspect could also probably come up. But the details of this dinner will only be available later, and we are not even sure whether we will be given much insight into this dinner, because this is a private dinner as it's being called, officially called. The Prime Minister though was welcomed by both President Biden and First Lady Jill Biden, and there will be exchange of gifts as well between the two sides over here. From the Indian side, the Prime Minister is gifting President Biden something that will in fact be a reminder of the fact that he's 80 years old. So in Indian culture, any person who turns 80 has seen 1,000 full moons. So what is gifted to him will signify that. On the other side, the White House has in fact said that they will be gifting Prime Minister Modi an antique book, a wildlife photography book, as well as an antique camera. So we'll have to wait for any further details. At the moment, this is all that we know, that the Prime Minister went in for this private dinner, and this private dinner has only just about started.
So, well, the big highlight has been the exchange of official gifts between President Biden and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Now, if we talk about what the Prime Minister has gifted as far as President Biden is concerned, it's fascinating because it has deep symbolism embedded as far as his gifts are concerned. Now, if we talk about the idea behind his gifts this time, basically the gifts are to mark President Biden's 80th birthday. And according to Indian tradition, somebody who has completed 80 years of life has seen 1,000 full moons. So this is according to the Yajurveda, or an ancient Indian text. So this is the box. This box is special in itself because it's handicrafted, it's sandalwood, and the artisan who has created this box has also managed to embed a story in that carving as well. So that is special in itself. And inside the box there's a Ganesha idol. Now remember, Ganesha, as per the Indian tradition, is the lord of auspiciousness, and there's also a silver diya for President Biden, and there are 10 delicate small silver boxes. Now these in a sense signify 10 donations that are made as per the Indian tradition when somebody completes 80 years of age. So there's deep symbolism behind this as well. Now let's try and decode for you as to what all is there as far as these 10 silver boxes are concerned. So let's go to them one by one. And this particular box, as I said, is also extremely special because, the sandalwood was sourced from Rajasthan. And if you talk about the silver boxes now, so the first silver box has jaggery in it. Now jaggery, of course, is also, as per the Indian tradition, considered auspicious. Then you have a tussar silk cloth, and in another box there is a silver coconut. Now that is also considered auspicious as per Indian tradition. There's salt, there is tilak, there's also til, which is, basically sesame seeds that are all, that's also significant as far as the Indian tradition is concerned. So basically, these are 10 donations that are made when somebody completes 80 years of age. Now going to the First Lady Jill Biden. Now, Jill Biden, the Prime Minister, had a 7.5 carat lab-grown green diamond for Jill Biden. And why it's special? Well, it's special because A, it's made in India, and secondly, it is, green. So in a sense, also the whole idea of how it's environmentally friendly as well. But that diamond, absolutely stunning. It's a 7.5 carat diamond there for the First Lady Jill Biden. And now moving to what the American side had for the Prime Minister. Well, President Biden had a special vintage American camera for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and also an antique American book as well, a wildlife book which has significant details about American history. So that was gifted by President Biden. So now remember, exchange of gifts is more than just symbolism. It also is a means of soft diplomacy, something that we've seen play out in the Prime Minister's visit with Indian diaspora events as well. And also, significantly, the fact that, both these gifts from both the sides signify something about the Indian and American culture. Well, with that, we'll step into a short break. But on the other side, we'll have special guests to discuss what's on agenda today and what are the hard negotiations that the both sides will be involving in. Welcome back. Our focus remains the Prime Minister's 3-day visit to the US. And of course, he's arrived in Washington. Let's go across to our special guests who are joining us on the morning broadcast. Mr. Khanderao Kand, who is the convener of the Prime Minister's historic visit to Silicon Valley of the 2015, and also the president of the Foundation for India and Indian Diaspora Studies. Also joining us on the broadcast is Mr. Skandayal, former diplomat. Mr. Dayal, going across first to you. So far, we've seen very interesting highlights of the Prime Minister's diplomatic visit to the United States. Of course, it began in New York with the celebrations of International Yoga Day, several Indian diaspora events, and now is when the focus shifts to hard diplomacy, because now he is in Washington. Several important negotiations, several important, bilateral talks are lined up for the Prime Minister. How significant is this leg of his visit going to be? Because he will be talking about defense cooperation, tech cooperation. The big focus, of course, is artificial intelligence and space cooperation as well.
What your coverage just before the break shows how meticulously this visit has been planned both by India and the United States. And even before our Prime Minister met President Biden for the private dinner, the international media has taken a note of it and is covering in great depth, which I have not seen in the previous visits of our leaders abroad. Even Russia Today, Channel News Asia, all the other channels, they have already given a lot of time in their broadcasts about this visit and what is expected. Economist, that really has, which normally is a little, it has some reservation sometimes, and we all know about that. That says that what this visit is showing is the transformation of Prime Minister Modi to a global statesman.
Right.
What happened in United Nations yesterday as an International Yoga Day, and how this whole message of unity, etc., went from India and from our Prime Minister, and the way he will be treated in Washington. So
Right.
It is a very future-oriented, and much is expected not only in India but by the world.
Mr. Khanderao can't come in on the point that Mr. Dayal was also making, that a lot of meticulous planning has actually gone into, designing the Prime Minister's visit, Prime Minister's diplomatic visit. As somebody who has been the convener of the Prime Minister's visit to Silicon Valley in 2015, Give us a sense of how it's planned, the kind of, planning, the kind of sort of meticulous planning that goes into it, given the fact that, you saw multiple Indian diaspora events, and now, the planning that has gone into deciding the gifts that he will be giving President Biden and Jill Biden as well. All of it has some symbolism, some diplomatic significance. So give us a sense of that planning.
So definitely this is a very meticulously planned visit. The visit actually started almost like 6 months. You can see that in the month of January, there was a meeting between both NSS, Jake Sullivan and Ajit Doval. At that time, I said was also discussed just last like a couple of weeks back. There was again visit from the US delegation to India. So such kind of a visit happened at the three levels: a broader level, the diplomatic level, then the strategic level, which is much more whatever the agenda is there, getting to the nitty-gritties of the agenda. That also the broader level, if other can say that, but it is much more strategic as well as some tactical. So what tactical we can outcome could be. And then third is definitely the engagement of the entire diaspora. On the diaspora side, if you look at it, it's not just the event, but it's yesterday's, if you look at the New York visits, Elon Musk, he had a meeting. Similarly, there was a meeting with think tanks, Jeff Smith and Morgan Michael and Daniel Russell. There was a meeting with celebrities. So there are various different types of the selected folks at the meeting the whole day. Similarly, next 2 days, there are a lot of different organizations, different focus, meeting with the business leaders, meeting with the entrepreneurs, meeting with diaspora community, state officials, congressional meeting. And each one of them is separately, independently and meticulously planned.
Right.
Apart from that, broader diaspora also there is a lot of enthusiasm and cultural events and etc. around this. So it definitely is a much more broader planning at different levels is happening.
And of course, as Mr. Dayal was also pointing out, that in a sense, the image of India globally has changed. But also, Mr. Dayal, diplomatically, what should be the biggest takeaway from this particular visit, given the fact that it's being seen as a turning point in India-US bilateral relations? And as we've discussed earlier as well, tech is a big focus, security is a big focus, given the fact that both the NSAs were also present there. But at this point in 2023, what is really at the heart of India-US bilateral relations, and globally, what is the big message?
First, my name is Ambassador Tayal, not Dayal.
My apologies.
Secondly, the entire focus, what we saw yesterday, Prime Minister's visit to National Science Foundation, where First Lady Jill Biden was present, is for technology and technology of the future. How the greatest democracy and the oldest democracy, work together to meet the challenges of coming decades and centuries, because the world has changed. And the next contestation for global dominance, global importance, global significance will be with those countries which master the new technologies.
Right.
And there I find that our diaspora, our people in the Silicon Valley, they are our treasure. They are our wealth. They are our bridges. They are the bridge between India and, why is the United States so comfortable with India and it's ready to share technology, transfer technology? Because they have confidence. They have seen how Indian Americans are heading huge business conglomerates in IT, etc. in US, totally dedicated to United States economy, totally dedicated to India-America relations. And so there is a whole ecosystem which is there, which has made this possible, that United States now finds it comfortable to transfer technology to India, and that is what the whole world is looking at.
And Mr. Kant, as somebody who's had, a ringside view really to various leaders visiting the US and of course India's diplomatic image changing globally, how has the perception of India changed as far as the Indian diaspora is concerned? How has that evolved, in the past decade or so?
So India is emerging and seen as an emerging power. It is a need from a global perspective to restore the peace and balance, in particular the Indian Pacific region. That's what the US is looking for, is the balancing China's particularly dominance on the global supply chain that we have seen during the COVID and particularly later also. So it is a much more broader cooperation. The foundation is actually laid on the ISET, that is a initiative on critical and emerging technologies. As the ambassador said, that Indian diaspora, particularly in Silicon Valley, is very vibrant and much more technological savvy. So the diaspora's role, as well as India's emergence into the global space as a third leading, almost reaching towards the third largest economy, it may happen soon. So from that perspective, India is actually looked at as a respectful global partner, which is on the democratic values, which can stand, can has independent views, but also for the global better or the welfare. So that's India is much more seen as a soft power and a good power to have with the region.
Right. And last question to you, Mr. Dayal. In this part of the visit, I mean, coming back to the Prime Minister's visit again, we've of course discussed the focus of being on tech and AI and space cooperation as well. How is it going to impact India in the days to come, given the fact that now here back home the government has also approved a chip maker Micron to establish their project in India. So how is it going to impact us? How is it going to impact the ordinary Indian in the days to come?
The effort by the government and with the cooperation of our friendly countries is to go towards Make in India, and that is very clear. That is the declared intention of the government, and government is following it. We have not allowed Tesla to export cars made in China to India. So it is not that. So PM of course had a very good meeting with Mr. Elon Musk. I wonder how that thing was handled. So, but the message would have gone across to the corporate world in United States that if you want to do business with India in India, then you have to make in India.
Right.
Only then that market is available to you. And that of course translates into jobs.
Right.
That affects the lives of millions of our youth, educated youth. So there is a lot, the direction is very clear. And the message which is going from the government and from the Prime Minister is that please cooperate with us. We will open the doors for you, but you have to create jobs for our youth, for our people in India.
Right, that resounding message there in the Prime Minister's visit. Thanks so much, gentlemen, for joining us on the morning broadcast.
Thanks, Parag.
And well, as we were discussing, jobs is a big focus given the fact that now Micron Technology has also gotten the nod from the Indian government to set up a project here in India. In fact, the Prime Minister met top CEOs in Washington, D.C. He met Mr. Sanjay Malhotra, who is the president and CEO of Micron Technology, and also H. Lawrence, who is the chairman and CEO of General Electric, CEO of the General Electric Aerospace. So now that is of course significant because a key announcement is also expected as far as Micron Technology and General Electric coming together is concerned. So that announcement is something that is being closely watched. And there you can see the historic state visit requires a historic welcome as well. So there you can see the Prime Minister being welcomed there in Washington, D.C. And well, my colleague Maha Siddiqui has been reporting from the ground. Over to her with a very special guest.
I have with me Richard Rosso from CSIS. Many thanks for speaking with NDTV. My first question is with regards to the big takeaways that we are expecting from this visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And two of those big takeaways are expected to be from the defense sector. Are we looking at a purely buyer-seller relationship to continue between India and the United States, or is there a possibility of technology transfer?
Technology transfer, that's kind of the line that India's been holding out. We've tried to do programs to accelerate technology transfer in the past. They haven't been successful. Even the big deal that we kind of looking for on this trip on jet engines was first announced when President Obama visited India for Republic Day 8 years ago. and it wasn't able to move out of the starting blocks at that point. Now we re-announced it again in January, and here we are just a few months later, and it looks like we're on the cusp of having a significant announcement.
So is the common threat of China really the driving force that is bringing India and the U.S. closer?
On defense and security relations, for sure. But there's a whole lot of other reasons. The diaspora, the work that Indians do here, studying, teaching, so many other things, but also our growing economies. India just surpassed China as the most populous nation. You've got a decade now averaging 6% growth or higher. The United States and India are going to be two of the countries that are propelling global growth.
Talking about the private sector, Jake Sullivan, the US NSA, was in India just a week ago, and he stressed on the fact that it has to be industry to industry contact if we are to take the tech partnership forward. How do you see that going forward? Because we are seeing some steps being taken, especially as far as semiconductor supply chain is concerned.
Well, the starting point, we need to recognize how good India already is in areas like semiconductors, but it's the back end. It's the research and engineering where India's excelled. Some of the largest semiconductor firms in the world do a lot of their basic research and engineering and design out of India. So India already has a piece of the value chain, a significant one, but now looking at manufacturing, and unfortunately, a lot of that's not even held by the national government. State governments in India need to get things right.
My final question to you is with regards to the other sectors where we can see more collaboration between the two sides. Are we seeing any such areas being left behind? What about something like space? Do we need to take more steps to build closer ties there?
Well, I understand that space is supposed to be also underscored during this visit significantly. The areas that I think don't get enough attention, you don't really see a lot of government actions on supporting the broad IT service industry, which still remains the backbone of U.S.-India commercial relations. Basic manufacturing, if it's not strategic, it's not really on the agenda, we need to get that as well because India needs to find employment for the hundreds of millions of folks that are about to leave basic agriculture, move to the cities, and they're going to be looking for jobs. We were able to help provide that for China. I hope we can do the same for India.
Richard Rossumay, thanks for speaking with NDTV.
Of course.
With camera person AJ Joseph, this is Maha Siddiqui in Washington, D.C. for NDTV.
Well, 3 civilians were injured after a car exploded last evening in Manipur, where ethnic violence has been raging for nearly 2 months now. This is what sources have told NDTV. Union Home Minister Amit Shah has now called an all-party meeting in New Delhi this Saturday to discuss the situation as far as the violence-hit state of Manipur is concerned. And in the latest blast, around 7:30 p.m., the bomb was planted in an SUV in Bishnupur's Kwakta, one of the worst violence-hit regions in Manipur. Now, yesterday, gunfight has been reported as well in several parts of Manipur. This is what sources have told NDTV. In fact, I'm being joined by Saurabh Gupta on the phone line. Saurabh, so despite multiple efforts by the centre and despite the fact that, security presence has been increased in Manipur as well, and it's been there for the past couple of months as well, the situation continues to be sensitive. And how do you think that the Home Minister's all-party meeting is actually going to impact the situation on the ground?
The Home Minister's effort, while he was visiting Manipur and post that, the centre's effort has been to get the two groups that are, there's a lot of mistrust between these groups, to get these two groups to a discussion table, to create a situation security-wise where these discussions can be held, and then perhaps look at a solution that can ensure that these two communities can live together like they've lived in Manipur for years. But this ethnic conflict has really divided the state into, the hills and the valley. And that division is something that is going to be a challenge for the Union Home Minister's effort. And of course, followed up by several moves by the centre, has been to get these two communities in a situation where they can sit and talk together. Secondly, another focus has been on combing operations and also ensuring that people surrender weapons. But with these incidents that we see are being reported from Manipur, and it's not just in Kokta, but also in Impal East district, there have been incidents also that have been reported. Or in all these areas, the problem really is that the weapons are in the hands of people who shouldn't be having them. So there's a larger focus on combing operations and getting people to hand over weapons so that a security solution can emerge to pave the way for a political solution.
Right, Saurabh, thanks so much for joining us with all those details. And Amit Shah now has called for an all-party meeting for the state of Manipur. And moving now to the big weather concern. Well, average rainfall across Rajasthan has been several notches above normal for this time of the year, and good rains 2 weeks ahead of the sowing season as well in monsoon. So, well, the cyclone Biparjoy and the rains that it has brought has been beneficial for some. Harsha Kumari reports.
51-year-old Shankar Lal Yadav, a farmer from Nevaru village, is busy sowing and preparing his fields. The rain brought by cyclone Biparjoy has proved to be a boon for farmers like him, who traditionally sow bajra, peanut, cluster beans and pulses as a monsoon crop. The sowing season is still 2 weeks away, but this unexpected and very welcome rain has led to farmers like him sowing their crops early.
देखो बिपरजॉय के कारण किसानों को तो बहुत फ़ायदा हुआ है, क्योंकि अपने जो मानसून है वो जुलाई के फर्स्ट सप्ताह या जून के लास्ट सप्ताह में आता है, लेकिन इस बार 10-15 दिन पहले ये बरसात आने से यानी किसानों को बाजरे की फसल में, मूंगफली की फसल में, मूंग की फसल में बहुत फ़ायदा हुआ है.
At Sarna Dungar village, Gopal Lal Sharma has come to buy bajra seeds. 70% of farming in Rajasthan is dependent on the rains. And good rains due to the cyclone this year has given adequate moisture to the fields for an early sowing.
15 दिन पहले नहीं, ये तो बहुत ही बढ़िया टाइमली बारिश है, तो इस टाइम पे पीक टाइम चालू हो गया ना, बाजरा और गुआर का, मक्का का, मूंगफली का, ये फुल पीक टाइम है इस टाइम पे, तो इसलिए किसानों में तो खुशी तो है ही भाई, टाइम पे बरसात हो गई और टाइम पे बिजाई हो जाएगी, टाइम पे फसल भी अच्छी तरह से पक जाती है ना.
जो 15 रोज बाद में बहती और आज 15 रोज पहली बरसात आई है ना, तो मेरे लिए बहुत फायदेमंद हुई है.
The entire state of Rajasthan has received 220% more rain than average for the season. Barmer, Jodhpur, Pali, Jalore, Sirohi and Ajmer are facing flooding and waterlogging. The cyclone has damaged 8,700 mud homes, 225 school buildings and 35,000 dwellings. But in districts like Jalore, Sachor, Pali and Sirohi, 60 small and medium dams have received water and some are even overflowing. This will provide drinking water to these districts for the next few months and will also help in irrigation. With Virendra Singh Shekhawat, in Jaipur, Harsha Kumari Singh, NDTV.
Let's take a quick look at the international headlines. Well, around the world, the story of the missing Titanic submersible and its rescue operations race against time has been riveting onlookers. Time is running out for the search and rescue effort to recover a submersible vessel that was lost during an expedition down to the shipwreck of the Titanic. But, in the words of the US Coast Guard, who is helping to lead the effort, you always have hope. On board are 5 passengers, including a billionaire British explorer, a British Pakistani tycoon and his teenage son, as well as Stockton Rush, the founder and CEO of OceanGate, the company leading this expedition. Now, according to some estimates, they could all run out of oxygen by today. This is if they're even still alive. The vessel went missing as it reached the bottom of the 4-kilometer deep ocean, an area whose crushing water pressure makes it difficult for many rescue vessels to reach. The US Coast Guard has said sounds and banging noises have been heard from the search area, adding that with respect to food and water, it's their understanding that there are limited rations.
Several P3 flights have heard the noises as yesterday, and we put assets there. We relocated assets immediately. With respect to food and water, it's my understanding there are some limited rations. I can't tell you exactly how much they have aboard, but they do have some limited rations aboard. We need to have hope, right? But I can't tell you what the noises are. But what I can tell you is, and I think this is the most important point, we're searching where the noises are, and that's all we can do at this point.
Many pieces of the stern, the bow of the Titanic and all sorts of pieces that fell off during that wreck. That's one of the problems in trying to find the submersible on the seafloor. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. It's just one of many lumps that could be imaged down there on the seafloor. That's why we're trying to, investigators are trying to use sound to try to find the submersible. If some sound is coming from the submersible, it can echo to the sonobuoys that are being dropped at the surface. On the surface, it looks like there's now a growing number of ships around that area where the submarine was deployed. It's very heavy, and so maybe 10 tons. So the submarine would have sunk almost vertically downward. It sunk down for more than an hour and a half, which is about how long it should take to get to the bottom. So it sounds like whatever problem developed happened just as they were reaching the bottom.
At least 31 people were killed when an explosion ripped through a restaurant in the northwestern Chinese city of Yanchuan. This is what state media has reported. 7 more people were receiving medical treatment, with one of them in a critical condition. 2 others have suffered severe burns, 2 had minor injuries, and 2 others had scratches caused by flying glass. In fact, footage by CCTV showed smoke pouring out of a gaping hole in the restaurant's facade. Australia's internet safety watchdog threatened to fine Twitter for failing to tackle online abuse, saying Elon Musk's takeover had coincided with a spike in toxicity as well as hate. In fact, eSafety Commissioner Julie Grant, a former Twitter employee, said the platform was now responsible for 1 in 3 complaints about online hate speech reported in Australia. She added, Twitter had 28 days to show it was serious about tackling the problem or face fines of $475,000 for every day it missed the deadline. US President Joe Biden, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, and the White House executive chef are going all out for the state dinner with our Prime Minister this evening. Several dishes feature millets, as the United Nations has declared 2023 the International Year of Millets, recognizing the grain's environmental sustainability. Listen in to what the US First Lady Jill Biden had to say about the plan of action for the state dinner.
We hope guests feel as if someone has set that table just for them, because we have. After dinner, we'll have the opportunity to hear one of our nation's incredible talents, Grammy Award winner Joshua Bell. His performance will be followed by Pen Masala, a South Asian a cappella group from the University of Pennsylvania, who are bringing a little piece of my hometown to the White House, along with songs inspired by the sounds of India. Finally, after the last plates are cleared, with new connections forged and old ones strengthened, guests will end their evening walking across a moonlit lawn. There they will be greeted by hundreds of glowing lanterns guiding them home, illuminating their pathway with all the warmth and love and laughter that we hope they take away from our time together.
Well, with that, we're slipping into a very short break, but as always, we'll keep tracking the latest developments for you on NDTV 24/7.